Hey everybody, and welcome to the weekly Reroll, the show where we recap what happened in all the different D&D campaigns this week. This week we are fortunate enough to have some nice overlays that will let you know what show we're currently talking about, so you can mute it if you don't want to hear the show that we're talking about. You don't want spoilers for Solemn. When the Solomon logo comes up, you know not to watch to mute until Eben comes up or whatever. So, without further ado, let's hop into the weekly Reroll, starting with Roleplay Solemn. This is Season 2, Episode 3. So, Roleplay Solemn was supposed to spend the entire session revolving around this monster called the Boule. The party hears about this Boule creature when they get to the town. What town were they in? I completely forgot what town they were in. Let's just look that up real quick. Terrible DM. Worst DM NA. They were in Durock when they hear about the Boule. It's a small town, not much is going on. They hear these rumors that, up in the north, the prince of this region was killed by a Boule. Ooh, scary. And they keep hearing, the town starts freaking out. The town starts panicking, like, holy crap, there's a Boule here. We're going to have to evacuate. Everyone is talking about this Boule, this horrible monster. Horrible monster. Everyone's worried about it. It killed the prince and his 10 escorts. All of them were mounted on horseback. Just slaughtered them all, right? Everyone's got their panties in a bunch about this creature. The party was meant to spend the entire session looking into this creature and learning about its weaknesses and learning about its strengths and learning how to fight it so that if they came across it, they could fight it. But instead, they're just like, whatever, let's just keep going. And they keep going. Even though the town is literally evacuating. Like, they hear about the Boule one day, and the next day the party wakes up and the town is, being evacuated. And the party's like, fuck it, let's just keep going. They run into the Boule and get so lucky. They get so lucky. It's unbelievable how lucky they get against this Boule. It's ridiculous. The Boule gets a surprise attack off on them. They hear the rumbling of the ground and like, holy shit, there's a Boule somewhere. And all of a sudden it leaps out of the ground and attacks Alice. And there's some, debate between me and Jeff about we should have gotten attacks of opportunity. You were aware of something coming, but you didn't know exactly where it was coming from. You weren't surprised, but it still got the first attack off. That's just the way it is. A battle ensues. A very, very lucky battle. The Boule misses on its bite attacks, which by the way, the bite attack can do a maximum of 48 damage on a non-critical hit. All right, that's 4 12-sided dice, 4d12 damage for the bite attack. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. But it misses all of its bite attacks. Its claw attacks each do 3d6, and it gets 2 of them, and yet somehow the claw attacks never roll more than 10, which is ridiculous because when you're rolling for stats, you roll 3d6, so the claw attacks just do low damage all the time, and it's just, they get so lucky. Victorian gets poison on his sword from the poison vial that they had, and stabs the Boule in the eye with it. And the Boule, who has a lot of hit dice, so his saving throw versus poison is pretty good. He only had to roll an 8 or higher to pass the saving throw, where he would have taken no damage, but he rolls a 3, and so he takes the full 25 damage from the poison, which takes effect immediately. The party gets a couple more really, really lucky blows in there. And even though Alice gets to -8 or -9 HP, they somehow manage to finish off the Boule in time. They take Alice, who's now basically unconscious, or I think they get her back to consciousness. And they go back to Durock, which has the population down at 30% of what it was a couple days ago when they left. The rest of the session is taken up with people just celebrating them for killing this ridiculously impossible creature, and all that fun stuff. It takes a while, and during, while they're resting, while Alice heals up, a messenger has been sent to the king of this region, who is actually under Verasi control, but the party hears that this area of horse lords, when Verasi came north, they just said, fuck it, we're joining you guys, here you can have our territory, just let us keep ruling it. And Verasi's like, cool, just give us the money, rule the territory, do everything in my name, and that's fine. So the horse lords, who aren't necessarily, the most strong Verasi supporters, but they're doing it anyway. The king is really happy about this because his son had died to the Boule, so he comes all the way over to Durock to see the party and bestow upon them some gifts. But while the king is en route, Largo decides to go around pickpocketing the town, and the local lord of Durock, whose name I'm blanking on right now, it's Stonecup, Lord Stonecup. he hears about like, oh my god, all of a sudden all these these thefts are happening around town, which normally doesn't have any theft because the rule of the horse lords is so freaking brutal. Should tilt these down so the camera doesn't. I hate the glare. Anyway, so he tasks the party with finding out who the thief is that's stealing everything in town. And of course, no one except for Largo knows that it's Largo. And the party does like some clever investigating and see that Largo's in two of the same places that the thievery happened. And they try and question Largo, but he cleverly dodges their questioning. And then they stop questioning him and just leave it alone. Anyway, the king shows up, and he's so grateful. He's so happy to have this boule destroyed, because a boule is ridiculous. It has 22 AC, except for its eyes and this little spot on its back, which the party never learned about or attacked it for anything. So, the boule can ravage towns. It could ravage cities. It's a monstrous creature. Anyway, the king is so grateful, he comes all the way out to Durock to bestow upon the party some gifts. He gives them just a flat amount of gold in platinum. I think he gives them like 30 platinum, which is like 300 gold. It's a lot of money. He gives them a bunch of money, and on top of that says, hey, what can I do for you? And after some negotiating and stuff, Vincent gets the ruby blade, or the ruby sword. I forget exactly what I call it, but it's the ruby blade, basically. And it's a red, the blade of the sword is actually red, or kind of like a pinkish tone, and it has a couple of rubies embedded in the hilt. And the party's like, oh, is it magical? Is it magical? Is it magical? But no one had to detect magic on the hand, so no one knows if it's magical or not. Side note, magic is banned in the world, so I don't know. Take of that what you will. Largo was like, oh, I need something so I can fight better. He kind of like phrased something in a strange way. Like he was trying to metagame it, or not metagame, but he was trying to game the system and be like, oh, I want a ring that, or I want something to increase my power. But the way he phrased it, the king was like, oh, okay, you want to become a better fighter or like a more powerful warrior? Great, I can like have you come and train at my castle, blah blah blah. And Largo's like, well, shit, that didn't go how I wanted. And Jock was like, oh, I really want to deal more damage. So she also tried to come across with some clever way of saying something to mean something else and to get what you want. Like, tried to be clever about things, but was clever in like all the wrong ways. I mean, role play the game. They tried to play their character. The players tried to get something for their characters rather than the characters trying to get something for themselves. Like it was clearly a player moment when they were doing something like that. So Jockry, the king's like, yeah, I'll find the best blacksmith around and he'll make you a brand new spear. And Jockry's like, yay, thanks. Because really, Jockry's just going to get a new spear. It'll be a good spear, it'll be a cool spear, but, it'll just be a spear. So the party learned their first lesson in asking for rewards, which is ask for rewards like your character would ask for rewards. You know what's in the system, you know it's a D&D game, don't try and game the system, play your character. Hopefully that will stick true. And Alice gets nothing. If memory serves me, and I'm pretty sure memory does serve me correctly here, Alice didn't really get anything. The king was like, I don't know what I could offer you, Alice. And she's like, nah. And, but they did get a big bag of gold. I guess Alice didn't get anything. I don't really remember. Well, we'll see on Wednesday, and I might be wrong, because Wednesday is when we do Roleplay Solemn next. And that's it for Solemn. Kind of a short recap, but the week was mostly taken up with resting and lots of RP moments that were not very notable, and the big battle with the Boule, which was not as notable as it should be, and the party should entirely be dead. The party should be dead, guys. They really, really should be dead. They got so lucky. I mean, it had +9 to hit. Anyway, forget that. All right, next we're going to move on to Roleplay Evan. So, if you don't want Roleplay Evan, spoilers, shut your ears. Alright, Roleplay Evan starts with the party being like, you know what, let's go up to that abandoned building on the hilltop where the cultists are supposed to be that's harvesting everyone's organs. Let's go deal with those bastards. And on our way there, Cobblepot and Ricardo go up to the building at the top to like see what's in the building and kind of do some stuff, while Rich and Riley hang back and just like, well, Let's just see what's going on. We'll wait back here. And all of a sudden, Riley hears this voice talking in her head. And she's like, what the fuck is this voice? Rich, what is that noise? And Rich is like, huh? What? What are you talking about? I don't hear a noise. There's no noise. Uh, 5 or 10 minutes of dialogue and confusion happens until we find out, oh my god, Riley's sword is a talking sword. It's actually talking to her. And there's some fun stuff that goes on there, and Rich is thoroughly confused the entire time because Riley's like talking to the sword aloud. Meanwhile, Rich is thinking that she's talking to him. Anyway, it was funny. It was fun. You should watch it. It was great. Anyway, up at the building, Cobblepot is supposed to be like distracting the door guardsman, or knocking on the door, trying to sell them something to distract the guy, while Ricardo turns invisible and sneaks inside to see what's going on in this abandoned hut. But they get to the top and they knock on the door, and no one answers. So Cobblepot just opens the door, and Ricardo walks in, and then Cobblepot's like, "Well, that was boring," and walks back down to Rich and Riley. Ricardo walks around. He finds a staircase, and I had kind of zoned out at this point, so I hope I'm representing this correctly. But Ricardo goes down, sees a staircase that leads into some sort of like dark area with a meeting room, and it's got Daryl, the guard that Riley was hitting on and trying to like pretend to sleep with in order to get access to something that she could have gotten access to earlier. Anyway, Ricardo sees Daryl down there wearing like these ceremonial robes, or at least we think they're ceremonial, and comes back out and says to the rest of the party, "I found a gate to hell in the building," but it's really just a stairway down into a darkened area. But the rest of the party's like, "A gate to hell? My God, we cannot let this stand. It must be stopped," right? So the party, thinking there's a gate to hell, when really it's just a darkened stairway, casts grease on the building. Rich goes up, he takes his hatchets, and he hatchets the door shut, so that way no one can open the front door. And then he throws his torch onto the building, or maybe he throws his torch and then he hatches the door. Whatever, the order of operations here does not matter. Building goes up in flames. The party's all outside, like, okay, we're going to destroy this building, right? We're going to kill whatever comes out of this. Or, the party's getting ready to fight anything. And Rich and Ricardo go around back. Riley and Cobblepot stay up front. And the building just collapses and burns to the ground. The party's like, well, sweet. And they all, they meet up at the front again. Rich is like, hey, I'm gonna have to wait. I got some axe heads I need to recover. 2 of them are magical. Totally need to get those back. At this point, the guards show up. I think it's at this point the guards show up being like, oh my god, why is this building on fire? And Ricardo's like, oh, you got to talk to Fix. Fix told us to burn this building down, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to give an explanation, but he's going about it kind of the wrong way. The guards aren't very receptive. Like, he's trying to explain how the party came to burn this down, but he's doing it in a very, I don't know what the right way to say. He's like, well, Fix told us to go investigate this place, and we found this place, and it seems like there's these cultists in this place. And meanwhile, the guard's just like, you can't just burn fucking buildings down. Did Fix tell you to burn the building down? Even if he did, he's not the guard. Like, he's just a man. He's just a civilian. He doesn't have the authority. And Rich steps in like, I'm sorry, he's not explaining this well. There was a gate to hell in that building, filled with demons, and we're burning it down before the devils get out. And the guard's like, holy shit, let's go get some more guards, right? Because, as always, Rich saves the day. Not that I play Rich, and not that I'm being biased or anything, but Rich always has to come and clean up everyone else's mess. Anyway, there's this lightning bolt flash that some people noticed that actually happened a little bit earlier. That seemed unusual, although it was raining slightly. Whatever, it seemed unusual. I don't know why we cared so much about it. And then all of a sudden, there's some smoke starts showing up in town. Now, I have my theories on what the smoke is, and I'm sure everyone else has very similar theories on what the smoke is that showed up in the middle of town, but we're not going to get into that because we don't actually know for realsies. Anyway, the burning house collapses, as I said before, but now it actually collapses. And this Minotaur shows up. And Rich, because the Minotaur, shows up in the middle of the collapsed building. And Rich is like, I'll take care of this beast, and runs forward to throw his spear at the Minotaur, and rolls a 1 to hit. And on a saving throw versus death, he rolls another 1. And on the other saving throw versus death, to save for that death, he rolls another 1. That's right, 3 1s in a row. And then he rolls an 11, which is still a fail, but at least it's not a 1. JP rules that Rich loses his balance, falls face first into the fire, takes a ton of burning damage, and loses 3 points of charisma or 2 points of charisma, and then like his face is on fire. Cobblepot comes to, like, pull him out and heal him up, and Rich, like, bats away at the flames on his face. Loses another point of charisma, so he's down by 3 points of charisma. Permanently lost 3 points of charisma here. And then there's this like Minotaur who's causing some problems. He's fighting the party. A pretty epic battle ensues. The Minotaur, by JP's claims, was already nerfed a little bit, but the party has a really hard time fighting it. It knocks Rich down to like -8 at some point. Riley gets knocked unconscious. The party seemingly almost dies somehow. But in the end, they just barely survive. They just barely kill the Minotaur. And we leave with the party on top of the hill, dead Minotaur at their feet, Rich down by 3 points of charisma for realsies, and everyone else is kind of like, oh, what the fuck is that? So I think we're probably going to go investigate the smoke in the town. Probably. All right, let's switch over to misclicks. So, misclicks time. If you don't want misclick spoilers, cover your ears. We are in Season 2, Episode 5 of the misclicks. Now, a lot happened this week. A lot role-playing wise. Some of it can be recapped pretty quickly. I'm going to try and go into a little bit more depth here. Misclicks. So they leave wherever it was that they were staying. Let's find these map names right now. They leave... Were they at Northall? They might have been at Northall. They were somewhere. No, they're at Sunder. There we go. They were at Sunder. And they're going to head all the way down to Beggar's Cove, which is way, way in the south. But first they stop off at Rockdale. And when they get to Rockdale, they're like, hey, we need some healing potions because we don't have enough healing potions. And asking around at Rockdale, they find this shaman who lives out in the forest who can sell them healing potions. And they get out there, there's this weird shaman. He's got a weird little hut. There's all these like strange things in it. There's like a jar of eyeballs. There's like jars of toes. There's all just like really weird shit, like a dried lizard over here, like shaman stuff. Like it's very stereotypically shaman. Dried animals, dream catchers, strange symbols, guy in a loincloth, whatever. Pretty normal. So they try and trade. They're like, hey, we want to buy some of your healing potions. He's like, gold? Gold is useless. I don't want gold. You have to barter for it. And so the party proceeds to try and barter with this guy. And they're like, well, we could give you some of the extra mushrooms that we got for Faye. And he's like, nah, I don't want those mushrooms. Well, maybe I want those mushrooms. And like, well, look at this bag of gems and jewelry that we got. No, I don't want them. Well, maybe, I don't know. They're arguing. And eventually someone says, well, we always have that statue on our ship. And he's like, what statue? And they reveal to him that they have a statue of one of their friends who got turned into a stone by a cockatrice and had the stone arms broken off. And he's like, ooh, I would like that. The party's not sure about this. The party kind of argues back and forth. Half the party being like, no, we can't get rid of the statue. It's our friend. How horrible is that we're trading our friend away for a couple of healing potions? And the rest of the party's like, she's a fucking rock. She's not even alive anymore. She's dead. And they ask the shaman, could you bring her back? And he's like, maybe, theoretically. I can't do it now, but I might be able to. It might be fun to try and figure out how to do that. And so the party is, again, and like, well, what if he does bring her back? Well, that's great for her. Now she's alive. But then she's with a crazy, creepy shaman in the woods. Maybe he's going to sell her into slavery or something, or sex slavery. And the party argues a little bit more until they remember that the shaman had already been like, pets are slavery and slavery is wrong, so having pets is ridiculous. And like, oh, he's totally not going to sell her into sex slavery. Oh, she might not even be a very good sex slave without arms. This probably isn't that big of a deal. She's probably safer here with him than she is with us on a ship, because if the ship sinks, she sinks to the bottom of the ocean and is lost forever. All right. We will sell or trade our statuized friend in exchange for these healing potions. And they do so. And then they proceed to leave. But on their way out, they're like, holy crap, those two sailors that we kidnapped last week and brought with us on the ship and told them that they were going to be pirates with us, they disappeared. Because earlier in the episode that we didn't recap, they were like, what the fuck? Why are we on this ship? We don't want to be on your ship. No, we don't like this. We don't like this. And when the captains kind of made it clear that, well, you're on the ship or you're dead, buddy, they're like, fine, we'll live with it. And then as soon as they landed in Rockdale, the kidnapped people just booked it. Turns out they were on a different vessel already. They had they were employed with a different vessel, and they were just like drunk at a bar at the time that they got kidnapped. So they want to get back to the other ship. Anyway, the party takes a nice long journey all the way down to Beggar's Cove, the pirate safe haven. And it's a fairly large pirate town. There's just a bunch of people that do, I mean, there's a lot of pirates there. And the party is told that here it's supposed to be safe. You're not supposed to steal from other pirates. You're not supposed to kill other pirates. Everything is supposed to be just, it's supposed to be like a safe haven where you can all hang out. Of course, some thieving and kidnapping and stealing and looting and death does happen, but you do your best to keep it to a minimum. You know, we're supposed to be safe here. It's very clearly made that troublemakers will not be tolerated. The party goes into a bar and immediately gets hit on. They meet some guys. There's a pretty hilarious encounter where, like, there's this drunken guy that, you know, is really badly hitting on Faye, and Faye's like not into it. Oh no, first there was the drinking game. There's a drinking contest between Faye and the charismatic guy that they found, whose name is over here. Oh god, I'm blanking on the name. Let me find the name. Why didn't I write the name down? Shh, it's fine. We're gonna find his name. I promise. Where's the name? Ship stats. There we go. Jefferson. Jefferson challenges Faye to a drinking game and then gets his ass kicked. Like, he just rolled really, 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 really poorly on his constitution checks and gets, like, passed out drunk right away. Meanwhile, this random large gentleman, large pirate, fat is wrong, but he's kind of like a bigger guy. Comes over and he's clearly like blackout drunk and starts hitting on Faye, spends a lot of time hitting on Faye, and then eventually he's like, fuck it, this is not working for me, I'm going to leave. And then he starts hitting on December, and December, who's had a couple of drinks, too many drinks, she's pretty drunk, she's one saving throw, or one con check away from being like blackout drunk. She's fucking freaking out. She's over, like, sitting at a table with the knife going, stabby, 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 stabby. She's freaking out. And then she's also talking about, it's December now. What does that mean? What about this? She's like, there's something going on in her past that she's freaking out about and is not telling people. And this is, like, only helping her psyche to be more, like, freaked out. So the guy tries to hit on December and is like, ugh, that doesn't work. And then goes over to Lily, and Lily's like, I am no one's third choice. What the hell? And the guy's like, no, baby, I just saw you. I couldn't see you. You were so short. You're clearly the best. I love you so much. And Lily's like, fuck you, bitch. Don't you come to me for third choice. Like, get away from me. Lily's pretty pissed at this. Anyway. So after that night resolves, they decide, you know what, we need some new crew members. That's kind of why we're in Beggar's Cove. In addition to drop you off and kind of know where the place is, we could really use some new crew members. Where do we find someone? And they really want a Minotaur, so they go to the arena. And the arena is filled with all sorts of fighters who are willing to, I mean, it's a fighting arena. They're paid to fight and kill each other for the sport of other people, right? I mean, it's an arena. That's what you do at arenas. And they find this Minotaur there. They find two Minotaurs sparring. They talk to them both, and they meet this guy, this Minotaur named Tyrant. And Tyrant is he's in a good mood. He wants to kill some bitches. He wants to, you know, he wants to make some money. He wants to go on his quest. The party tells him, like, oh, there's this giant crystal somewhere, and Tyrant's like, yeah, I make a lot of good money here, but I would be down to go get this giant freaking crystal. And so he goes off to do that. Well, he says he'll join the party to do that. And so he joins the crew temporarily. Under the assumption that as soon as they get the crystal from underneath Iron Rock Mountain, that he's going to come back here and keep fighting in the arena because, you know, he's a Minotaur and he wants to fight in the arena for honor and for glory and for wealth and blah, 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 blah. Lily goes around to a couple of the mages on the island looking for spells. She gets a list of spells that are available, but she does not buy any of them. And eventually the party finally sails out into the ocean up towards the Iron Rock Mountain when they encounter a flock of hippogriffs that come after them. And the battle that ensues showcases why we are changing from the system that we're currently using for Misclicks into 2nd edition, because Lily just destroys all the hippogriffs on her own without really needing anyone else. Some other stuff follows where one hippogriff that landed in the water, they try and like bring it onto deck and try and tame it or something, and the Minotaur Tyrant is like, dude, it's not going to happen. you can't tame these creatures, and it keeps trying to bite them and fight them. So eventually they just kill the hippogriff. And oh yeah, the whole crew was unavailable for the fight because they were all sick. And at this point, the party is going to continue heading north towards the Iron Rock Mountain. And that is our recap for Misclex, and we are making amazing time. In fact, we're making 2 amazing time. This is going too quickly. Whatever, it's fine. The next thing that we have is Dicing with Death. So if you don't want Dicing with Death spoilers, head away. This is Season 2, Episode 2 of Dicing with Death, which also just means this is the second episode that has Beryl. It's really the first full episode because the last episode was pretty short. It was only an hour for Beryl. Anyway, Beryl, who is at kind of the center of, not at the center, but on the sidelines of this big engagement between House Francis and House Rothschild. House Francis and House Rothschild. They're like arguing over this trade thing. No one really knows what's going on. Beryl goes upstairs and talks with his dad, being like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about all this crazy stuff between the Rothschilds and the Francises?" And his dad's like, "Stay out of other people's business. It doesn't affect us. You know, we got to keep the peace. We don't want to piss off the higher noble families. I expect you to make a good name for our family, not to tarnish it. What the fuck are you doing? Stop investigating this and just, be a good son." And Beryl's like, "Okay, Dad, see you later." And goes to meet, he goes to the bar that his servant had told him about to meet this guy who might have some more information for him. So he goes to the bar, talks to this guy who's like hidden in this back room. The guy's like, "Well, you don't really want to be here. I know what's going on." Like, I'm reading between the lines here a little bit. The guy's like, "Well, I know what's going on, but I'm not going to tell you everything. You should investigate this on your own, at your own pace. Go to Lockstein. There's a bar there. It keeps changing names. It's filled with elves. You can find the information you're looking for there." And Beryl's like, all right, I got this. I'll head out to Lockstein. Lockstein actually is one of the cities that his family owns, so he's got connections there. Anyway, he heads out to Lockstein, and he gets a couple of towns over. He gets to, how far does he get before he gets into a battle? He gets pretty far. Roost. So he gets to Protrum, no big deal. He goes to Roost, and on his way between Roost and Lockstein, he encounters this group of people. It's like a cart that's been turned over, and there's 2 guys yelling at an ox about, "Oh, the cart's turned over and blocking the road." Like the good person that Beryl is, he's such a kind-hearted individual. He's like, "You know what? I'm going to help you upright this cart and clear the road because I am a good human and I believe in this." And as he goes to help them upturn the cart, and he's like attaching his horse to the wagon to like move it over or whatever, one of the guys pulls out a knife and shivs him right in the gut. And Beryl, who's not wearing any armor at this point, is like, "What the fuck?" Grabs his lance off his horse because he was standing right next to the horse, and then skewers the shit out of these other 2 guys. So he kills the 2 brigands, is pissed as hell that he got stabbed, and then he had to kill these brigands, and now he's got to go back to Roost so he can tell the guards there that there's like a brigand on the road and that he's killed them and cleaned up the mess. So he's going to be late to Lockstein, and he's just like grumpy and pissed that he's got to like be all responsible and shit. So he does. He goes back to Roost, talks to the guard there, the sheriff there, who like deals with everything else, and then he heads off to Lockstein. In Lockstein, he goes to the Royal Rooster, which is like the nice fancy inn there. Even though he's got a distant cousin, Lord Lockstein, who runs the city, he still stays at the bar stays at an inn rather than stays with his cousin. Anyway, he meets Captain Humbersnatch, the captain of the guards at the Royal Rooster, who seems to be really interested in Beryl and likes to talk to him and engages him in a lot of chatter. Eventually, Beryl's like, "Cool, peace out. I'm going to go to bed." Next morning, he wakes up, heads out to the other side of town to find this elven bar where he's supposed to find out all this information. He goes there. He's still wearing all his very nice, fancy clothes. The innkeeper immediately recognizes the sigil that he's got on his shirt and is like, "Oh, so you must be of House Rosewater or Rosewater or Rose something or whatever the house that he's part of. I should know this stuff. This is my campaign idea. Rosewell. Oh, you're House Rosewell, okay." And Beryl's kind of at this elven bar, and he's kind of obvious because he's the only human in the elven bar, and everyone else is kind of dingy and dirty, and he's well-dressed and kind of a noble, and it's a little awkward, and eventually he leaves. And he's like, "Well, shit. Oh no, he finds out at the Elven bar that the Francis family supplies the elves there at the bar with their ale and their wine. So he's a distributor for them. And he's like, okay, well, this is not evidence that I was really looking for. Shit. How am I supposed to find out? Like he's trying to figure out how he can find out what's going on between these families. Like there's something happening, and he's trying to figure it out. And they say, well, you can talk to Flatbrook. He is the distributor for the Francis family in this area. So he goes and finds Flatbrook, Mr. Flatbrook, who is as I said before, the distributor for the Francis family in Lockstein. There we go. That's the name of the town. He goes and talks to Flatbrook, who's like, "No, I don't know what this conspiracy you're talking about is. I try and stay out of the way. I'm just a man on the ground. I don't do anything. I don't know anything. I'm not involved in the politics. I just distribute things in the city. That's all there really is to it." And so Beryl's like, "All right, shit. No one seems to know anything, or at least no one's willing to tell me anything, even though I have it on some authority that from my other town that these people should know something." So he starts wandering about, being like, fuck, what am I supposed to do next? When he notices this kid following him, this elf. And so he sees the elf following him, and he stops to tie his shoe, notices the elf hangs back, plays it cool. The elf is really bad at following him, by the way. He's good at following, but he's pretty obvious about it. Keeps glancing at him, It's pretty, when Beryl moves and the elf moves, when Beryl stops, the elf stops, sort of thing. It's pretty obvious. Beryl goes around a corner and then hides around the corner, waiting for the elf to come around. Elf comes around, Beryl grabs him by the shirt, shoves him up against the wall, and I was like, "Who are you? Why are you following me?" Pulls Batman, right? And the elf immediately just "I don't know anything. I'm just hired. This girl hired me. I don't even know who she is. She hired me to follow you around and spy on you." So Beryl's like, "Okay." And he's like, "I don't know. That's all I know. I really don't know anything." Beryl's like, "Okay, fine. You can keep following me then. I don't care." And proceeds to walk off. And the elf just runs the other way. He books it, heads off for home or something. Beryl says, "Well, all right, let's see where this elf is going." Follows the elf to this alleyway where the elf goes down the alleyway and is trying to open this door. The elf sees Beryl following him, or sees Beryl watching him try to open this door. Beryl tries to hide. He's like, "Fuck, he totally saw me." Peeks around again just to see the elf walk inside. He's like, "Well, shit, what the fuck building is this?" He goes and looks at the front of the building. Oh my god, it's Mr. Flatbrook's building. What? So Beryl knocks on the front door again, and the same elven servant comes out and is like, "Hey, what's up, Beryl?" Well, no, she doesn't say what's up, Beryl, but she's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? What can I do for you?" Beryl says, "I need to see Mr. Flatbrook right away." And the elf servant's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, he's gone for the day. He'll be back later tonight, but he's not here anymore." And Beryl's like, "Bullshit! I know he's here. He's in his office right now." And the servant's like, "I don't know what to tell you. He's not here. Yeah, he's gone out. You can come back later." Beryl is pretty pissed, "Fine. But I know he's in there anyway." Grumble, 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 leaves. Oh no, he asks, where does that door go on the side of the alleyway? And she's like, "What door in the alleyway? I don't know what you're talking about. It must belong to the building behind us." And Beryl's like, fine, all right. Beryl goes down the alleyway, heads out to the other side of the street on the other side to see what's on the other side, and it's a warehouse. And there's some goods being moved in and out of the warehouse right now. And so Beryl watches from across the street. There seems to be some sort of elf foreman working this place, and a bunch of human worker. So there's an elf foreman who's running the place, it seems, and a bunch of human workers who are just unloading shit from a cart into the building. Beryl follows the human workers after they're done unloading. They go to a bar, and they seem to just be hanging out and having a good time. So Beryl's like, "Well, screw it, that's no good." He heads back to the warehouse and tries to break in. So he peers in the window, nothing there. Opens the door, walks in. Doesn't see anything. There's another door behind him, but the door is locked or barred on the other side. So he shakes the door, but shit, I can't go. Whatever, screw it. He heads out. Just as he heads out, someone comes in through that middle door. So to recreate the scene, he walks into the warehouse, but the front is just the front of the warehouse is a small room, 10 by 8, that has a desk, a couple of comfy chairs, and the door. He tries the door. Door doesn't work. He leaves. As he leaves, the door opens. And he peers in from the outside again, sees the same foreman elf who looks around, scratches his head probably because elves don't have beards, and then is about to head back inside when Beryl pops back and is like, "Hi, what's up? What's in this warehouse?" And the worker says, excuse me, who are you? What are you looking for? He's like, I'm Beryl. He gets the elf's name. The elf's name is the elf's name is Frankel. Frankel. Uh, so Beryl tries to question Frankel, what's in here? Who do you work for? And Frankel's like, who the fuck are you to ask these questions? Get out of my warehouse. Unless you give me a good reason to answer any of these things, just go away. I don't want anything to do with you. Get out of here. Get out of here. So Beryl eventually leaves. He's not very happy about this. He goes back to the Royal Rooster where he meets this dwarf who's, they have a conversation. His name is Silversteel. And he talks to Silversteel for a while, who, is in charge of a lot of silver and steel up in Smelton. And it turns out that Silversteel actually knows the Francis family. He uses them as like a distributor for his supplies. Like he'll mine the silver and all the steel, and then ship out the ore or the products that he makes to other places, and uses the Francis family's merchant connections to do this. Anyway, he leaves, goes and talks to some other... he doesn't leave. He stops talking to the dwarf, talks to a couple other people for a while, and as he's like going back, getting ready to head for bed, he sees this beautiful, dark, mysterious woman appear in the doorway, or show up. She comes right up to him and immediately starts heavily flirting with him. They head off to the parlor to chat in more seclusion, where the flirting intensifies. And then he sees the dwarf with a beautiful dwarf woman kind of hanging out, also in the parlor. The dwarf gives him like a thumbs up. It's a little creepy. It's whatever. And Beryl proceeds to head upstairs with the woman and consummate the friendship. Yeah. We make him roll 2 constitution checks. The first one, he rolls a natural 3 plus his 7 con for a 10. I didn't say what that check was for, but I'm sure you guys can infer it. And then we make him roll a virality check, to see how virile his men are, so to speak. And he rolls a natural 20 for a 27 on his virality check. But that has to correspond with the woman's fertility check to make sure there's So there's some question as to whether or not he will be producing a bastard offspring in the future. He rolled well on his virality check. It depends really at this point on what she rolled on her fertility check. This may be a huge plot point in the future, or it may not be a plot point at all. Who knows? But it's up in the air right now, so that's why I'm mentioning it, is because this could be a big deal or it could be nothing. Anyway, next morning, the mysterious woman is gone. I think her name was Fiona. Yeah. And Beryl's like, all right, I'm going to head back to Flatbrook's office. He's got to be home now. He goes back to Flatbrook's office. Flatbrook is there. He's hanging out in the purple parlor. And so our hero, Beryl, goes back to the purple parlor, and Flatbrook's like, oh, yes, I hear you were looking around for this person the other day. Well, he broke into our offices, and I have him with us right now. We can go talk to him. They go back further into the offices, down some staircase into this like mini dungeon that's in the middle of Mr. Flatbook's offices. Down these stairs. Interesting. And they see the elf chained to a wall. I mean, like, he's got long chains, so you can like actually walk around like 10-foot chains, but they're just attached to the wall. And he's battered and covered in bruises and bleeding everywhere. And Beryl is immediately saying, what happened to this guy? How is he so badly hurt? And Flatbrook's like, oh, well, when we came down here, he just fell down the staircase. And Beryl's like, yeah, of course he fell down the staircase. Sure. Uh-huh. And he chats with the guy, the elf who was following him, who's the guy here, that claims, oh, I was breaking into the offices. When I was following you around, I was just trying to pick your pocket. No one hired me. I did this all of my own volition. I just wanted to steal money from you. Here, you can have the couple of silver you gave me back. Beryl's like, okay, I don't know if I believe this at all. But he doesn't. Of course, he doesn't say that to Flatbrook because Flatbrook is kind of being interesting. And then as Beryl's about to leave, Mr. Flatbrook says, you know your way out. Go ahead. I got to deal with this guy a little bit more. And just as Beryl's leaving, Mr. Flatbrook says, say hi to Captain Humbersnatch for me, which is interesting because Beryl never said anything about Captain Humbersnatch. And Captain Humbersnatch has talked to Beryl a couple of times, not just the once. He talked to him twice and then like tried to talk to him a third time. So there's definitely something So Barrel's like, wait a minute, this is sketchy as shit. What the hell is going on here? And so as he goes up the stairs to leave, he decides, well, I'm just gonna get lost in the offices, and proceeds to like take a right instead of taking a left, opens door, and bam, in the middle of the well, not, I guess he's at the back of the but at the back of the warehouse that he was looking at earlier. So he just peeks around, decides to go investigate. There's some stuff underneath a tarp, so he starts walking for it when he hears a voice, and it's Frankel again, the elf, the foreman of the warehouse. And Frankel draws a longsword immediately, like that. He didn't have it on his waist; just like sitting on some boxes. And Barrel's like, "Whoa, no need for fighting. I just got lost. I was leaving Mr. Flapbrook's office, and I accidentally came in here. Totally a misunderstanding." And Frankel gives him like a glare, like, "What the hell is going on here?" "Okay, fine, fine. You can leave now," and lets him go. At this point, he decides to head back to the Royal Rooster. And as he's going back to the Royal Rooster, he goes back to his room. There's a thief in his room. So between Georgie Boy, who is Barrel's bloodhound, between Georgie Boy and Barrel, they manage to defeat the thief. Barrel patches him up so the thief doesn't die or bleed out or anything. And then they call for the guards, who take him away to jail. Captain Humbersnatch is surprised. "Wow, this isn't your week," he comments, and takes the thief away somewhere. And that's it. That's where we end Dicing with Death. Next on the chopping block is Roleplay R&D. This will be Season 2, Episode 4 that we are recapping. So if you don't want to hear anything about R&D, you should probably head out right about now. Yeah. So again, I don't watch R&D. I have notes because my beautiful, beautiful mods have written up these notes for me. Specifically, a combination of Dr. Dualaw, Inuyasha / Drago, Chippendale, and Zeus Juice. I'm not sure who exactly wrote them, but yeah, someone. That's the party mods that are doing this. R&D. So, week 4 of R&D. The party gets attacked by some of the stone gargoyles, but defeats them pretty easily. Fink gets separated from the rest of the party, falling down to another floor. To escape his situation, he casts Word of the Unspeaking and talks with the stone, asking 3 questions. 1. Who is watching me? To which the stone answers, the cleaning ghost. 2. Will the power within this blue gem, holding up the blue gem towards the stone, help me? The stone answers, the gem holds the eye of the powerful ones. 3. What is the easiest way for my friends to get down here? The stone answers not in words, but instead the ground starts shaking and rippling, causing the steep stones he traversed earlier to form a safe set of stairs, leading upwards. However, this attracts some unwanted attention, and this is where the episode gets good. Fink gets attacked by a slime cube. Now, my notes say slime cube. I don't know if they mean what type of slime cube they mean. There's a lot of different slime cubes. I guess this isn't D&D specifically. I like to think of it as a gelatinous cube, but it could really be any other sort of slime cube. I mean, gelatinous cube is just the cliche Dungeons & Dragons, but I know they're not playing at Dungeons & Dragons, so ignore my commentary on this. These are my own projections onto a system that I've not seen and a system I've not played in a game I've not seen. Anyway, through the fight, people just start dying. First, Amsel, then Fink, they both die. By a magical mishap from JP's flute, the minstrel, Chana, the NPC follower, suffers fatal damage, also falling into a pool of black, dense liquid, and she does not rise again. Duncan decides to fucking just runs away, and Lobelia finishes off the slime cube somehow. Picks up some stuff, including finding a magical wand. Yay, always loot the monster. Most of the rest of the stream is taken up by character creation because, well, a bunch of party members just died. So they make some new characters. Lobelia goes back into town, and in 3 weeks she finds 3 new people to join her to finish adventuring the tomb of Cathris, which I assume is the tomb that they were just in. One was a druid named Irolo, Day 9, a paladin named Rock, JP, and another bard named Whymin, Whymin. So I guess women, something like that. That's DJ Wheat. Wait a minute, didn't Duncan and Lobelia. I guess I don't know. I don't know who Duncan and Lobelia are, but I thought one of them was JP. I guess I could be mistaken. Oh, maybe Duncan just runs, like just leaves, and Lobelia is the one left behind. Anyway, everyone makes new characters except for Lobelia, who stays as Lobelia. They leave the town, returning to the tomb. Dark. So that's all I have for R&D. I wish I could get better show notes. I can get better show notes for this. My mods give amazing show notes. I wish I knew more about the game to give you more social commentary on what happened or how it happened. But the notes are awesome. My mods are great. Everyone give my mods a round of applause for doing the R&D recap because I need them desperately. Without them, I would not know what I'm doing. As for Dark Heresy, there was no show this week. I do want to say something about Solemn. I completely forgot a little bit about Roleplay Solemn. So we're going to talk about Roleplay Solemn one more time. If you don't want Roleplay Solemn spoilers, this is a pretty minor one, but you should duck away again. What I forgot about Solemn is that during the... wait, didn't I already say this? I already talked about this. Never mind. I didn't forget. I totally mentioned everything. Haha! No need to say anything else. All right, that has been the weekly reroll for... what is this? February 3rd? The first week of February? That's been the weekly reroll for February, first week of February. Coming up next on twitch.tv/Koibu will be cartography. We're going to make some maps, and after that we're going to be doing some behind the screen because it is Monday for our Monday night roleplay group. Or D&D group. They're not a roleplay group, D&D group. That's it. I will see you guys next time for the weekly reroll next week. Bye-bye.